Littlest Pet Shop. You just had to be there. Said it before and I'll say it now, these tiny bug-eyed animals were everywhere back then. I wasn't really playing with them myself, except for that one time they had them in the play area in kindergarten, and then I asked the next day if we could play with them again, and the teacher said no. Let's just say something inside me changed that day. While LPS hasn't been around as long as something like a Barbie or My Little Pony, its 15 minutes of fame came at a time where casual gaming was also at its peak. And what's more casual than little plastic cats with bobbleheads? There are a ton of LPS games out there, some reskins of others, but in total, there's enough for me to cover in a video like this. So, out of curiosity, I decided to play every LPS game I could find, and I left pretty much no stone unturned, trudging through these games and unearthing bizarre oddities lost to the sands of time. Strap in because I'm gonna take you for a ride through the world of Littlest Pet Shop. Kenner LPS fans and LPS 90s cartoon fans lost today because there was nothing I could find for those. But I think we won today though, because I don't have to talk about the 90s Littlest Pet Shop cartoon. The earliest thing I could find were these really simple flash games, presumably from an old Hasbro website. A match 3 game like Bejeweled but bad, and with really freaky animations, and this matching game. For something like this, these are fine, and Blue Maxima's Flashpoint doesn't have any dates for these, so I'm going off aesthetics alone. It looks like 2005, so. For those who don't know, Neopets was one of the first tentpole kids MMOs. They featured a lot of brand tie-ins, including a Littlest Pet Shop game, so you know I had to play that. The game has you working at a pet adoption center, getting the owners to the pet they want. But the way you do it is so unhinged. You have a conveyor belt that you press arrows on to direct them to the pets. Not to sound like the angriest gamer you've ever heard right now, but what kind of animal shelter operates like this? Also, the sound effect for getting the right pet is the bumper sound from Sonic 1. I'm going to guess and say this was a reskin of some other game, either one they did for another tie-in, or something they just had on the site already, because 2 others I found pre-2010 were tie-ins to the DS games, which we will be talking about later. One I couldn't get to work, and the other is this ice cream game. In this one, you swap around these cones on the bottom screen and match the different flavors. I saw this and I thought, oh, it's a clone of Yoshi on NES. I love Yoshi on NES. But no, it's about ice cream segregation. Like we're gonna see from those DS minigames, it's fine until it goes on too long and you lose on purpose, just to make it stop. Now, Littlest Pet Shop Online was a very short-lived MMO game that lasted from 2009 to 2011. It had all your standard kids MMO features, customization, minigames, and a monthly membership feature. There were codes included on certain toys that would grant new stuff in-game, not dissimilar to Webkinz or Disney's Club Penguin. There is a Littlest Pet Shop Online revival project, with even some demos available as of writing this. And that's all the online games for now. We've got something very interesting to look at. A Littlest Pet Shop Biggest Adventure on the TV. We all know what a plug-and-play game is. Very simple. 2 cables plug into the TV. Super big around 15 years ago. SpongeBob, Pac-Man, Spider-Man, Dora, Shrek, Knob. We've talked about the My Little Pony one before, which was a simple series of minigames. Pet Shop is actually more of a full experience. And I mean full. From what I was expecting, it's a lot more in-depth. The game gives you a choice of pets to adopt. Once you get one, you can play minigames, feed your pet, give it a haircut, buy accessories, and little toys for it to play with. Beyond the usual set of minigames, which give you coins to buy more things with, the salon and doctor's office come with their own little quick time events. Going to this one building even lets you adopt more pets, and you can build a little collection. You can view them in this gallery, pick one to play with. Each type of pet has their own play area, like rodents, fish, dogs, cats, birds.
You guys are watching Bird Up!
Where you can play with the toys you buy from the shop. Certain types of pets are also exclusive to certain minigames. Oh yeah, that's right. Hamsters are the GOAT. They can do most and have the largest number of exclusive minigames. The bowling one, while not especially fun, does nab you the most coins in the shortest time, so you know I was grinding out that one. Other games include this one where you try and knock over other hamsters out this ring. One pipe dream type game where you gotta arrange these hamster tubes that PSA, you should never put an actual rodent in if you own one. This like Minesweeper game where you try and get coins. There was one I was excited for because I thought it was one of those games where you have to push boxes onto switches and stuff. I love those. But no, it's just a maze. And then the third one was like impossible, so I stopped playing. Tug of War, tap the button they tell you in order to make the other pet question their life choices.
Look at little Goblin Jr. Gonna cry?
Obligatory Simon type game because it's easy to code. This game where you bounce balls is pretty fun. kept me on my toes but wasn't a chore. There's a racing game which pretty much any pet can do, and one where you have to feed them the right food by switching them out with the D-pad and pressing the corresponding button. There's one that only dogs can play where you dig for kibble coins, which is the currency in like every LPS game for some reason, no matter the developer, and it turns out that this game is the exact same as a minigame in one of the many DS releases. Which one? I forget, because there are technically 10. 10 Littlest Pet Shop games on DS. The fish have 2 exclusives and the birds only have 1, and it's the one they share with the fish, where they go through this course collecting flowers. How exciting. Playing minigames makes your pet's hunger meter go down. Like any good pet simulator, you have to keep these meters at least filled a little. So you make food for your pet. You can choose from different recipes. Doesn't matter because there's only really one per each species, and of course your dog isn't gonna like no mouse food. The pet's heart meter up here can be refilled by taking them to the doctor's office and doing this little checkup minigame. And I have no idea how the happiness meter gets drained or refilled, but if playing minigames refills it, that makes a lot of sense. Like I said, I was grinding that bowling game. Apparently there's also a day-night cycle, where after you do enough stuff, your pet gets tired and you gotta take it back to the main pet shop area. Remember when the MLP plug-and-play game had you just pressing buttons and that was the whole thing? This plug and play is not a console level experience, but it would be worth the price. This has the most pets out of any LPS video game, so there's that going for it. Nowadays, you'd have to really go out of your way to buy any plug and play game, but for what this is at the time, it's successful. There's a lot for a fan of the toys to get sucked into. I mean, the graphics and the music obviously aren't on the level of a console game. Sega Genesis tier sprite work and music that at times sounds like someone randomly banging on a keyboard. But I'll say it again, it didn't feel like this would be a waste of money. These, on the other hand, yeah, sit down because it only gets weirder from here. In my research, I came across a few more unconventional things you wouldn't really call games. I've learned my lesson from the pony video. I needed to have all this stuff assembled before I started. I cried when I looked up LPS Leapfrog game on Google and there were actual things, but it's okay because those were just episodes you could buy to watch on the Leap Pad. But yeah, imagine tuning into the adventures of Blythe and friends on that beautiful 2x2 resolution screen. Thankfully, there's no weird educational console I have to buy to play these, but there is this. Littlest Pet Shop Digital Pet. I know what you're thinking. This is just a Tamagotchi. And yeah, on the surface it is, but there are a few big differences that make these worthy of being its own thing. Number one, this thing comes with tendrils and these little plastic bits on the end. These take the place of buttons to feed and brush your pet, which you do by inserting them into these little ear holes on the side. I'm only gonna keep describing this thing using anatomical terms because I think it's funny. Better censor these then. The buttons kind of serve the function of a start and select thing. One goes through options and the other is some kind of enter button. Inside this thing is an entire little map to explore with different locations and minigames. I think it's really ambitious for something like this, especially since the LCD display is like, what, 40 by 40 pixels? I say it's ambitious, but I've never owned any of these kind of things, so I wouldn't know where the bar is in terms of content. I just thought it was kind of confusing going in. I was able to look up a manual online, but that didn't give me anything super helpful. The system you use to get around is really slow and at times incomprehensible, so I wasn't gonna search for each and every minigame to tell you guys which ones are worth playing. The screen here is half the size of an eraser anyways. What were they gonna do for those? I wasn't a fan of it as a game, but as a thing to hold in your hands, it's nice. It's sculpted really well with all these little details. There's even some transparent plastic mixed in too, which is a really neat touch. Even the little keyring that's attached to it is weirdly ornate. I also need to mention the third button, the iconic third button, this tree thing on the side. You can play with your pet. It doesn't really affect anything. Later releases would still look nice and have a lot of the same mechanics, but they did away with the food bowl and the plastic brush pieces. I like the uniqueness of it, but you can imagine the problems that would come with this kind of thing they'd want to fix in a later release. Kids are gonna cut these with scissors or just tear them off and parents are gonna complain. Plus, you never know how expensive it is to manufacture something like this. The circumcised version, again, is similar to the first one, but from the manual it looks like there are some changes. They have the classic hunger and health meters that this one lacked, and I bet the world and minigames are slightly different. There's also a chance that one doesn't have the bumpin' minigame music from the first one. Side note, the sounds that come from this thing are so loud, I don't understand why they needed to design something that could literally be heard from the next room over. This isn't really a game, so I think this counts as a bonus entry. Plus, that makes me not obligated to talk about the other versions. But you know what I do want to talk about? This. Littlest Pet Shop Pet PDA, another pet simulator toy, but ooh, basic organizer functions. You can put contact info here, there's a calculator, and even a calendar. The calendar doesn't go past 2010, it's like they knew this kind of tech would be outdated. For what it is and when it came out, it's cute. I can imagine a kid getting really sucked into this. Even more than those Tamagotchi things. The biggest problem I had with this thing was figuring out how to use it. Nobody's uploaded any sort of manual online, and the one YouTube video doesn't go into it at all. I barely figured out how to make the pet walk around, and some of the minigames are just impossible to understand. Like, how do I pick up the poop? You're telling me that I can't pick up the poop? What were they thinking? At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, yes, I did like the Pet PDA more than the virtual pet, but there is literally no practical use for this thing. The Tamagotchi is at least a cute, epic, kidcore Pinterest aesthetic accessory, but what does this do in the year 2024 besides take up space?
We'll be right back with Littlest Pet Shop. And now we're back with Littlest Pet Shop.
The simply titled Littlest Pet Shop from 2008 is probably the most iconic out of all these games. Licensed games for the Wii from around this time aren't crazy to see. If your family owned a Wii back then, your library probably contained at least one of these among the higher quality releases. You know, Mario Kart, Wii Sports, and Grease, the official video game. A lot of these are cheap and made for a quick buck. LPS is no different, but we're not playing this on the Wii. I'm playing the PC release. It's the exact same game, but you gotta have those higher quality graphics. I mean, higher quality resolution. The graphics are still... And you could say they look even worse with the higher resolution, but, you know. The other big difference between this and the Wii version is that there's no motion controls. Where a lot of the minigames there have you using the Wiimote, you'll be waggling the mouse. The game has you as the owner of a virtual pet shop, at least that's what they call it, where all your pets get to roam free. There are multiple worlds you unlock, like a jungle area, winter area, and a garden area. Pets have basic food and happiness meters, which are filled by feeding and brushing them. They don't really have any effect on the main gameplay though, and are just here because, I don't know, it says pet in the title. They gotta put that in there. The main gameplay loop is grinding minigames and unlocking new pets. Each pet costs you more and more moolah. After you buy one, you get some quest you have to do, like play a certain minigame with a certain pet, or something really simple. They'll tell you there's a new pet at the pet shop for you, but it's 700 coins and you don't have that, so oops, back to the Bubble Bounce minigame. If you're looking to grind for coins, that one's for sure the best. Blow up to 5 or 6 bubbles by clicking an area and bounce coins off them so they don't fall into the water. Super satisfying too, but I wasn't on the edge of my seat playing it. Just happens that's the one with the best coin yield. Other minigames include a rhythm type game, Simon type game, one where you use arrow keys to balance on a ball. That one is easy until they just decide you've been playing it too long and it kicks you off. This one where you sort apples into these buckets can be fun at times. There's one called Nut Fest where you click on these nuts to crack them and stop them from falling on the pets' heads. Dude, get out of there. That and the hamster wheel game were near impossible with the mouse sensitivity I had. Also, I bet it's neat in the Wii game, but the guy who decided that the command to have all your pets come to you would be to shake the mouse should have gotten a slap on the wrist. It happens way too often, and I got sick of hearing the bell after a while. Also, there's no way to choose which pet to switch to, and you just have to cycle through them. But back to the minigames. The only one I found exclusive to a world was this Skyline game with the winter setting. It was okay. Hide and seek game I didn't care for all too much. There's one where you just do stuff and blow up a balloon, and one where you have to take a picture at the right time. Didn't care for that one either. After most minigames, they have this firework effect that plays and like completely blinds you for a second, like, wow, that was a fun minigame. Ow! In general, I think those parts would have been more fun with the Wii controls. And if I was a small child, listen, I didn't care about the fun I was having catching those apples. I needed to see more of the game. If you're trying to grind, as I implied earlier, it's a miserable experience. But there's a lot to like in this if you think of it as a kid's game. The minigames are simple and fun enough, and at least there's an actual something connecting them, unlike a lot of Wii shovelware. The pet shop is also more in depth than I give it credit for. There's a simple dress-up feature where pets can wear accessories, and there are little playsets you can buy for them to run around on. Even some built into the world, like the ski lift in the winter world or this roller coaster in the jungle. There's a large variety of pets to collect, and you can see little animations of them playing together, doing little conga lines and stuff. And while the models might look closer to a PS2 game, the settings themselves are pretty nice looking. They're not gigantic, they're just one room with maybe a hill or a body of water, but there would be some fun to be had running around in these. It's cute, but it didn't keep my interest. And while it would be fun if you had it as a kid, I always like to keep this in mind. There are better things for this age demographic. It's higher quality than some of the other more more infamous Wii games, and I think that's because this is published by EA, who did some other Hasbro games around this time. I remember having their family game night game on the Wii. Good memories, good memories.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say.
The original LPS received a port to the DS. Well, 4. LPS Garden, Winter, Jungle, and Spring. Yeah, in the DS releases, there was an exclusive world. Just for that, I picked Spring as the one to play, since besides some exclusive pets, these are all the same game. Same mechanics, same pets you start out with. I thought each one would just be its own world, but no, you get all of them in the one I played, so I guess those aren't exclusive, with the same basic structure and a lot of the same minigames, including Bubble Bounce, our old favorite. The reused ones are heavily altered to make use of the touch controls, including the Skyline game, which is now almost unplayable because now they make you do the circles on the bottom screen like you're turning a crank. New ones I saw here include this volleyball game, ball juggling one that either uses the stylus or the buttons, and the oh so exciting coloring minigame. Pet sets, which I thought would be a match 3, but it's more of a slide puzzle type thing. Maybe there were games like the ones I'm describing here in the Wii version, but I didn't play enough to unlock them. You know, after a while you get sick of the BBG, the Bubble Bounce grind. Maybe if I go on speedruns.com, they'll let me know when I've beaten the game and unlocked everything. You know, they usually have a, oh, the credits are available from the title screen. The DS version has even less going for it, besides the fact that it can be taken on the go. Now you could obviously get the original PC version running on a Steam Deck, so this thing loses all its advantage. I will say that the low poly models do give the animations a certain charm. I also need to talk about the multiplayer. Yeah, that's right. You could either go to the arcade and select multiplayer to do minigames with your friends through local Wi-Fi connections, or plan a party where you play separate games in a row, and you could even schedule it for a certain time. Wow, dude. It's always crazy seeing these weird little multiplayer bits that these low-key licensed games had, especially for the DS and their local multiplayer. Unrelated, but I remember the Wall-E game for the Wii, which I played religiously as a kid, had this deathmatch mode for its multiplayer, where you take Eve's arm and go around shooting other Wall-E recolors. It was weird. Speaking of the Wii, Littlest Pet Shop 2 Friends never got a PC release, so now I have no excuse. LPS Friends is a completely different beast. The pet collection mechanic is gone, so is the grinding. Instead, it's got a story and characters. The game centers around Bear moving to the new pet shop, your pet shop to be precise. He brings along his friend the caterpillar, but he doesn't know it because this fella's about to turn into a butterfly. Yeah, sorry, spoilers for Littlest Pet Shop Friends. In the pet shop, you meet various other pets as you try and put together a housewarming party for Bear and Caterpillar. The gameplay loop here has you walking around as a group of 2 pets, playing minigames, and crafting supplies for the party. As you meet more friends along the way, you name them, add them to your shop, and get to play as a new group of characters. Repeat until everything is ready for the party, and then the game opens up and I stopped playing. I think this was obvious, but the world here is interconnected, unlike the last one, where you switch between your little zoo areas. Walk around between the city, beach, and country, which, hey, those are the names of the 3DS ports. I think the environments actually look nice, a huge upgrade from the original. There's not really too much to explore, but what is pretty fun. And they have some detail stuffed into them. It can actually look pretty surreal at times. The look of the game had to be my favorite part for sure. The pet models also might have gotten an upgrade, but I'm not sure. The TV I was playing this on wasn't the biggest. This game introduces a crafting mechanic where you can walk around the map and collect materials. It then can go into a sewing shop or bakery to make something. It's not too in-depth, but for a kid's game, it's fun to feel like you're actually accomplishing something. Getting the materials isn't hard itself, but sometimes they'll make you stand around or wait for stuff to respawn, like this little cotton patch in the country section, or the Wii Remote commands will say no and you gotta try a good 5 times to shake bananas out of a tree or whatever. And there are some parts of the main story that have you buying accessories for the pets, but if you're playing the minigames like normal, you'll get by with enough coins to afford everything, probably even more. With that, if you're really trying hard to get to the end of it, you'll only be playing most of these once. They don't leave too much of an impression. We have a rhythm game here which is suspiciously similar to the one from the first. The ice cream one from the Flash game I talked about earlier, but it's completely different from the DS version. Here it's more of a Papa's Pizzeria thing, and guess what? There's another game like that where you're making cakes for these pets that come up to the counter. They really had the audacity to make you do this type of game with Wiimote controls. It's fine if you get the hang of it, but this would have made me cry as a kid. These kind of things should be designated to a mouse, something with way more precise controls. There are 2 games where you run around and have to tag other pets. I thought this first one was fun, and the second, okay. The second being this one one where you have this meter going up over time. The only other game I remember that has you running around is this one where you're taking care of flowers and running between all of them. The photo game, if you can even call it that, is similar to the first one, but with only one pet. Take the photo at the right time when they strike a pose. There's also a Magic 8-Ball game, question mark, that doesn't really give you any coins for beating it. The one where you light up these lanterns by shaking the Wiimote, like that Skyline game from 1, is really stressful for some reason. Like, it's really slow, but you're always going against the timer. Oh, and you can't forget the Virtual Shell game, or Virtual Skee Ball. That one brings me back. Felt like an essential Wiimote game. Not to be like ZOMG heckin' 2000s, but playing this, I did forget how it feels to swing around the Wiimote with a nunchuck in hand to play these kind of games. There's this music game where you have a little piano you can play, but the Wii version of this pales in comparison to the DS port, which is more of a Mario Paint type thing, where you have a little sequencer at your disposal. I was relieved of the dreaded grinding from the first one, but there were a few features I felt like I was missing out on. There's a very small amount of pets compared to the first here. I understand why, but they really took the name to heart here. The real Littlest Pet Shop was the friends we made along the way. And just the friends we made along the way here, no one else. The names you give them also barely affect anything. They don't show up beyond the odd bit of dialogue, but come on, if I named my pet something funny, I want to be able to see it all the time. Also, the playsets from the original are gone. There are little areas around the map to jump around on, but the illusion of customization or unlocking new stuff is not a part of this one. Of course, I gotta mention the DS port. Story is the exact same, but like the first, we're not in the 3D space. No, we're top down. Minigames are different. Virtual Skee Ball fans, I'm sorry to say, but they replaced that with something better in my opinion. Virtual Plinko. I just really like the sound effect when you get it into the high score area. The environments are translated into these pretty big maps, and I thought these were kind of cool as well. Don't like though how in the city area, there's a part that's locked until the end of the game where you need to jump across to access everywhere else on that screen. What is this? Sonic Dark Brotherhood? I just want to have funny fun times at the Littlest Pet Shop. Crafting system is here, all that too. Except they use the stylus, of course, plus this weird animation that they play in reverse. I'm not sure how to feel about that. I should also mention the exclusive pets. Each version of Friends on the DS had a few. All I remember is I got the tiger in place of this dog. Hey, wait a minute. LPS Friends is so different from the first that I can't say if it's more or less fun. It's appealing in some of the same ways, but there are other good things about it and bad things. I just know that it's a polished enough experience that this would get permanently drilled into some poor 2009 child's head. Like, listen to the title screen music, come on. Biggest stars was the final Littlest Pet Shop game released by EA, and this one was only on DS. Didn't stop them from making 3 separate versions though, each one being a different color, and from what I've seen, the version does impact the game a little more beyond the exclusive pets in the other versions. In this game, the main characters join the game's respective color team. It's pretty much the same. You know me, I gotta rep that purple team, so that's the one we're going with. It recycles a lot from the Friends DS port, even all the NPCs are just models taken from that last game. Same system where you're running around, you can switch between 2 pets, get minerals to craft items, play minigames. There's a main story with multiple groups you get to play as. Some parts of it, I will say, are more refined. The crafting animation doesn't have that weird reverse bit and is more like the one from the Wii version of Friends. Ooh yeah, and you sprinkle the ingredients and there's a whole meter, how fancy. Picking up ingredients can sometimes be more involved as well, like dragging the stylus or blowing into the DS microphone. No recycled minigames at all through these DS releases. They weren't that lazy, you guys. The ones here include this flying minigame I couldn't get to work back when we talked about the browser ones, touch the stylus to this apparatus to aim the bird and fly through rings, this figure skating game that was actually pretty hard to get right, even though I never had to redo it since this is a kid's game. This one where you're flipping up in the air collecting bananas. Another with this bunny where it's this infinite jumper game. That one was kind of fun. What, our third rhythm game? Here it feels like they're using the stylus better. Tap these different things before they close in. Yeah, what is this, Sonic Dark Brotherhood? The last one worth mentioning is another Papa's Pizzeria type game, but here with accessories. It's the worst example of a game that goes on for way too long, until you just decide to lose and have it end. All of these are tied to a certain character, which goes with the main campaign. Instead of a party, you're planning for this talent show. You'll be doing each game a few times, with the final time being at the talent show. Just like in Friends, the game opens up after that point, but I didn't explore more than I really needed to. After getting a good score in a minigame, or just by finding a prize randomly, you get to spin this wheel where you can get materials, accessories, and other little goodies, like food for your pet. That's right, the hunger and happiness meter is back from LPS 1, and guess what? It has some effect on the games. You win more points if your pet is happy and fed. Took them a while, but they made it work. And I mean a while. You can see the 2010s encroaching on this game with some of these music choices. And these classic sunglasses with the slits accessory. It's crazy how these went from being cool to dated to vintage. So retro. Now, of course, with talking about LPS, I can't not bring up the 2012 series. Airing on the Hub, the show followed Blythe, a human girl getting into all sorts of adventures with a group of pets. I've talked about it before, it's fun. And with it, there were a bunch of browser games, not only on the Hasbro website, but on the Hub's own hubworld.com. Flashpoint really came in clutch with all these, so let's get into them. The first one I think I played was Pursuit, a game where you run around as the character Minka finding other pets. Each level is only one screen, and there are only 4 levels. First platformer I played for this, and trust me, it was a breath of fresh air. I like the animations, they have this weird blurring effect on everything I've never seen in a browser game before. LPS Hide and Seek is another one that mixes in the actual toys, like Pursuit. Just click on them when they pop out from behind whatever thing. These are the later LPS designs, and I guess I agree with you fans, some of these are pretty uggo. It was somewhat challenging too, which was nice. Can't forget the spot the differences in coloring games, now can I? Also, there's a cake decorating game.
I can't. Not again. I'm not strong enough.
Yeah, whatever, dude. Let's just make a brown cake with a bone on top. How about that? Ah! Dress-up game, of course, with Blythe, while these two look on intently. Another game with a dress-up feature is Jet Pet Fashion Tour, where you ride around on the scooter throughout exotic locations featured in the show in order to collect dress-up items. After each of the stages, there's a dress-up minigame where you can use the pieces to dress some of the pets. What a bold fusion of genres. How was this not Game of the Year? The scooter parts are obviously the highlight. Also, this was one of the only Flash games with cutscenes. It may sound like I'm joking when I say that, but this is the most well put together Flash game I've seen for this. Nothing special, of course, but the bare minimum of action is always fun. Switch between lanes and collect stuff. At the end of a stage, the Biscuit Twins ride up in their limo and throw stuff at you. What is this? Sonic Dark Brotherhood? Another pretty good polished one is this Match 3 game. Miles ahead of that old one. You can actually stack matches on top of each other here, and beating each level even unlocks assets for a little scene maker. The UI in this one too takes a lot from the show's art style, it's fun to see. Last one is Pet Shop Rock, excited to hear some songs from the show in this rhythm game, and then I realized that this is a Flash game and they're not going to pay the singers royalties. Also, the animation of each pet dancing at the top isn't affected by her performance, and no, I don't know why they're all in these outfits. I get that the show is about fashion, whatever. The TV show characters never appeared in their own console game, sorry to say, but there was something that's near and dear to a lot of people's hearts. That's right, Littlest Pet Shop by Gameloft. On iOS and Android, servers got shut down and they took the app off all the stores. A Littlest Pet Shop on some fake pirate app I found online. Of course, this is not the true experience I'm getting with this. Without the online functionality, there's a few features left out. Plus, I have to turn my phone to airplane mode to even get it running past the loading screen. At least it works. A little bit. On iOS, it's near impossible to get any sort of custom apps like this, and trust me, I know. I was in the trenches in middle school with GBA for iOS deciding to work for a week and then being unavailable for the next 5 months. Luckily, I'm doing this on Android. iOS users kinda lost today, sorry. The game is a typical city builder, except we have 2D perspective here instead of the usual isometric. Pets live in these houses, you can play minigames with them to level them up and earn coins. Buildings generate coins, which you use to buy more stuff for your town, more pets, etc. Every day you can do a free lottery type game to win stuff, and there are other little features you can play around with. The number one appeal is the pets. It's cute to see them playing around and stuff, a lot like those older games on the Wii and DS. Seeing these stylized characters from the show in 3D though, not sure how I feel about that. This looks like that one game Scott Cawthon made before FNAF. Like a lot of these city builder mobile games, there are quests or missions certain characters will give me to do. I ended up getting stuck with no real way to progress in these. All of them either needed some online feature or required me to spend bling, this game's premium currency. The only real way to get more bling is by watching ads. Can't do that since there's no online feature. Or by buying them with real money. Even if the shop worked, we're not doing that, no siree. I mentioned it, but I just don't care for these. It's been said, but the whole way these are designed is just to pick at your brain and wring as much of your money out of you as possible. And I, for one, cannot imagine our friends at the Littlest Pet Shop engaging in such a predatory scheme. Except for Pepper, I think she would. And that's why they made her the icon. If you haven't picked up on it already, it shares a lot of similarities with the MLP game by the same company. They even have a ball catching game, suspicious. Also, the animation and sound that happens when you pick up a coin is the exact same as MLP. Ha! With the LPS game taken off the market, there's been a demand to see it brought back, but I'm not sure we'll see it return. Already it looks and feels really dated, and with the next gen reboot they're doing, they're already updating it with the times. It's on Roblox now, so we don't have to worry about publishing or making a new piece of tech. And since they're launching this on Roblox, you can bet they're trying to really get LPS back in the popular consciousness. And since they're trying to do that, there's no telling what other LPS media we're gonna see. Personally, I'd love another stab at a cartoon show, but it's likely gonna be 5-minute YouTube shorts. Similar to another franchise. Hooray! Again, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I want to say I had fun with these games, but
I did not.
If you want to see more content like this, let me know by, of course, subscribing or shouting out in the comments any other franchises that would be fun to cover like this. As always, special thanks to all my people on Patreon.